Leah Jorgensen with Strong as Oak Holistic Nutrition. I'm in my office based in Portland, Oregon. And today I have a very special guest joining me for my video series on holistic nutrition. I welcome Frankie Leigh Niwot. Frankie and I went to the Wellspring School for Holistic Nutrition together. We graduated in September. And Frankie was just definitely one of those women in the course who I bonded with right away and had a lot in common with. And we had all kinds of offline conversations about food, farming, nutrition, whole foods, restaurants, and how we want to be part of a system of getting great food out to the public and helping people figure out how to get balance through nutrition. And speaking of balance, Frankie's also, I know I'm really corny, Frankie is also a yoga instructor. She's amazing. Frankie likes to address the mind and body approach with nutrition and food. And she owns a business called Radiate Wellness. And the purpose of that is to integrate this unique combination of yoga and nutritional therapy. And she also offers yoga classes and ongoing nutrition workshops with the Portland Parks and Recreation, which is very exciting. And those are cooking classes. Currently, you have a 5-series cooking class?
Yeah, but right now it's a 5-week series. It kind of combines nutrition education with cooking classes as well. So each week there's a different focus around nutritional health and wellness, and then a cooking class that correlates with it.
Oh, how cool. So you told me you did one recently on fermenting foods?
Yeah, so there's one of the weeks is digestive health, so looking at positive bacteria and how the whole intestinal system is tied into our health, as well as the cooking class that does the fermentation.
Did the students like that?
Yeah.
That's so
great.
cool. Yeah.
We've made kimchi, we've made sauerkraut, we've done some fermented drinks, so it's wonderful.
Very cool. Well, so I invited Frankie to sit down with me. This is following, we actually did a couple series here on women's health. The first one that I did with seed cycling, and then we went into fertility with Bridget Beasley Danner, fertility and nutrition. And it's nice to have Frankie here because we're talking about something that applies to men and women and children, whoever. So we're opening up the door a little bit more to everybody. But I wanted to have you maybe go ahead and talk about why yoga and nutrition. Like what's the marriage there, and why is that something that's important to you?
Yeah. So a lot of people hear yoga and nutrition and they maybe think that it's like worlds apart. There's this thing that you do over here in the studio, and then there's this thing you do in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So how do they tie together? So for me, the way and the importance of yoga and nutrition is that yoga brings this piece of mindfulness. So people are able to really connect in with where they are, what their patterns are, what their kind of barriers may be between where they are and the changes they would like to make, and as well as really be able to hone in a space to visualize what that change looks like for them, where they want to go with their nutritional path. So it's really using the mindfulness tools of yoga, breath-based meditation, in order to let people feel that they have an ownership within their body, an ownership within kind of a grounded approach to their nutritional path. And we really use it as a foundation to grow from.
That sounds beautiful. So are you using then some of the concepts we learned from traditional Chinese medicine?
Yeah, so that kind of gets woven in there as well. I use tongue and pulse diagnosis.
Okay.
I use just kind of the energetics of food. I encourage seasonal eating as well as the energetics and how that plays in different times of the year. So it's really, there's a lot of things that I pull from. Yoga really creates this foundation, like I said, and then we kind of use tools from nutritional therapy, from traditional Chinese medicine to grow from there.
Oh, that's so exciting, Frankie. I'm so excited to see you following your passions and combining them in a meaningful way like that. It's so beautiful. Well, so then I'll ask you that in a second. I'll go back to that. But what you kind of described this, but what is in your core description a mind and body approach to our relationship with food?
Yeah. So the mind-body approach, in the way that I approach it with yoga and with breath-based meditation, is really tying the mind in with the body. So giving people the tools to draw their awareness into their breath, draw their awareness into maybe an internal visualization of the digestive system, to really kind of draw it out of the thinking mind or the grasping mind and bring it into what is really happening in the present with their body. And in order to bring those two things together, you can use that. Once you have that mind-body connection, you can go in a lot of different directions with it. You can go into more of a restorative kind of stress reduction, more calming, easeful path with it. You can take mind-body connection and go with it in a more movement practice that kind of continues to bring people back into the body. And then with food and our relationship to eating, it's giving people those tools and those practices that when they feel overwhelmed, when they feel stressed, when they feel the triggers that may be bringing on patterns or kind of these routines that they're in with food, they're able to come back to kind of a neutral point. They're able to come back to the breath. They're able to come back to a sense of health within their body, a sense of prioritizing, which is a big thing, health within the body. And they're able to move from that place and hopefully make choices based from that place where they're a little bit more grounded. Oftentimes you see people just making these pattern choices out of a real grasping, for this is going to give me this result, you know, and I can eliminate and get this result. Or, there's this real thinking mind that goes into our relationship with food. And so really trying to bring it back in, mind and body connection. So deep breathing before eating, deep breathing before thinking about what you're going to eat. Yes. Deep breathing maybe even before you come into your day, and what does this day look like, and what does this day look like when I create food and nutrition that's going to be beneficial for me. So really giving it a real grounded place that can be based in the mind-body connection.
I love this, because in my practice, I do a lot of work on mindful eating, and I do workshops on mindful eating, and not in the same lens, not through the same lens, but certainly when we talk about that connection of I like how you said being grounded, and being in a neutral space. That's really important when you are teaching tools and concepts on how to be mindful about what you're eating, why you're eating, when you're eating, because it all comes together, and sort of the spirit of where you are when you're eating. And it's even little things like how we acknowledge our food. Do we do it with gratitude? Do we even say grace? Or some people have religious traditions where they say grace. Some people it's their own mindful connection of I'm grateful for this food, whatever it is. So it's interesting to hear your angle of what you're doing, because it really is related into something very physical. It really is. It is spiritual, of course, too, and hence the mind body. But it really is. It's kind of owning that spiritual and physical space. And so I think that's really important, especially when people have specific needs.
Yes, definitely. And I feel like what years and years ago, I was doing work with teenage girls in Northern California. I used to run a program with teenage girls, and I would do a lot about empowerment-based work, a lot about, loving your body, caring for your body, how to develop that relationship with your body at that young age. I was working with girls that were like 11 and 12, and that was like my first time I ever taught yoga. I worked with them and I would teach them yoga classes because it was something that I loved. And it was then that I found this connection, where I was like, I can get people into their bodies in this way where they change all of these perceptions that they have about their body, and they're able to use it in a physical way. They're able to see the potential in their bodies. They're able to see it and feel really calm and at peace in their body. And then from that place, we were able to build, into conversation. But it's like, I just would see these groups of young girls able to connect in this way, both with each other, both with the, and with themselves as well. So I think that there's also this really important, like, self-care, deep self-care that comes with spending that little bit of time checking in with yourself.
Wow, it's powerful. It's really powerful. Wow. So how do you incorporate then meditation into your wellness practice?
So it is an option. So if people are interested in meditation, we'll kind of set up a meditation protocol for them to follow in their home practice as well. And then as far as our work together, I'll bring, if people are interested in meditation as something that they would like to either draw into their yoga practice more or draw into more of that, the nutrition side of things, then I'll go a little bit more into the visualization. So doing these deep meditations where we're going inside kind of an embodied anatomy of what's going on in the digestive system, what's going on. And maybe it's within chronic pain. Maybe they're experiencing chronic pain that's causing stress, that's affecting their eating. All of these things are so interrelated. So going into a really deep visualization of what's going on in that area of the body, what is it that we feel in that area of the body? In the digestive system, a lot of times you'll take people deep within the digestive system in this visualization. And then if you ask them to then care for it in this way, while they're in there, while they're connected deep within what's going on a physiological level, there's something so much more long-lasting in that connection that's made in that realm than just asking somebody to go to the store and buy this healthy thing to eat or make this food choice. But if you really allow them to connect in with it, this is my system. This is my landscape right here. And how am I going to care for that, from that real loving place?
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this. This is exciting because I haven't seen Frankie. Have I seen you since we graduated? I don't think so. And so you follow up with your friends and kind of hear on social media like what people are up to, and it's one thing, kind of seeing people post stuff, and then it's another thing, completely different thing, hearing someone so passionately talk about what they do and why. I love this, and I'm excited for you. This is just, I think you're really finding a niche here that is so needed. It's really needed, and people need to know about what you're doing.
Thank you, Leah.
Yeah. So I'll ask again, kind of about within your scope of practice. So you explained sort of how you bring in meditation for those who want it. But then how do you integrate your approach to wellness in general in a session with a client?
Well, we set it up so that it's, like I said, it's kind of a pulling from all of these different tools. And so wellness is, can be defined, or the way I like to look at it is like when you feel good in your body, you're more empowered and more likely to care for your body. So taking a really holistic approach to wellness, but then also really making it an individual approach as well. So knowing that there's a lot of different things that play into our lifestyle, into our work life, into our home life, and knowing that there's all of these different facets that make up what our picture of wellness is, and that those have to be played in and plugged in on an individual basis. And so I feel like the overall kind of meeting people where they are with stress, meeting people where they are with their diet, meeting people where they are with their self-esteem and their self-image, and really allowing those to create a picture of where they are when they're coming to me, right from the beginning. Well, where are you in all of these different ways? And then creating a path together towards wellness that feels supportive and that they can really be invested in for themselves. Because it's so important that we create these tools that they can use and continue to use out into the world and in their life, and like I said, continue to tap back into that place where they've checked in, where they know that this is wellness coming from a place that's a priority, that it feels good to them and feels like somewhere that they can really have that self-care for themselves.
Wow. That's really wonderful. It's inspiring too, because in all the work that we do, there's a lot of crossover, and, I had the same conversation with Bridget, even during our video segment, and then after the conversation the camera went off, but our conversation kept going. But we talked a lot about this idea of in our community, we're in Portland, and there's a lot of conscious living here. And so how you can reach out to people who are in need but might be overwhelmed, or they don't know how to find the right practitioner. I think it's really great to be able to see that there are different people who have different angles and have different ways of bringing really powerful, useful information to potential clients or just to the public in general through things like video or social media, and how we can sort of and so how people can have different options out there in the same sort of spectrum of holistic care, wellness. Anyway, so it's an ongoing conversation that I tend to have with a lot of people in our field, about how it's not even really about how you make yourself unique, but more how do you take what the incredible things that you have to offer in a way that's going to resonate with people who really need you. Because there are people out there who need exactly what you offer, just like there are people who need exactly what I offer. And so it's just sort of interesting to see that there are these niches and that they really do exist. So putting something together like yoga and nutrition in a meaningful way for people to kind of find that balance,
right?
It just makes such perfect sense to me.
And to give people, kind of the ability to see that yoga is it can be so large and it can be so vast. I think that that's something that I come up against a lot, is that people have this very specific idea in their mind of what yoga is, And I really like to remind people that it's this intimacy that we create between the mind and body, and that can look a lot of different ways, and maybe it is movement, and maybe it is meditation, and maybe it is just finding a sense of peace as well in order to grow from.
Right. Now I'm curious, when you do offer yoga classes, does nutrition ever come up, or do you ever find it like that immediate? It's a random question.
No. It's funny when my students that I work with, especially with Parks and Recreation here in Portland, because I'm in the same venue, I teach yoga. They know me as a yoga teacher, but then they also know that I teach these nutrition classes. And oftentimes it's like yoga has unlocked this door for them where they're like, oh, I'm just scratching the surface, and there's so much that I'm curious about. And that's really what I try to really draw out of people and with the yoga practice is, how can we use this to be curious? How can we use this to be investigative of what's going on inside of ourselves? And maybe not only physically, but in our minds and our emotions. And so from that curiosity gets turned on, and then I see it in they light up, they're just one step closer to wanting to be healthier in other ways in their life. And so maybe it doesn't get woven into the class itself, but it's definitely tying them into their bodies in a way that's when they see a nutrition class offered, they're like, that's not something that's totally out of my, wherewithal or my drive. It's there's a curiosity that's already been planted there about what's going on.
How cool. That's great. I'm happy to hear that the Parks and Recreation has given you a forum to be able to do both of those things in a way that's going to bring people not only to you, but bring them into something they might not have thought of for themselves before.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
That's great.
Yeah, and you get to, you know, really be offering it to populations of people that are really in need that may not have stumbled across it in other parts of their life, but they're, like I always say that when I work for Parks and Rec, I'm coming into their house. These are people who have taken their children there, taken their families there, you know, for so many years, and then I'm in their house, and I'm something that they are more likely to go and check out, because it's like, oh, I'm at the community center, I'm at their space, you know, and then I'm offering this to their community.
Wonderful. Well, Frankie, if you would, please let our audience know where they can find you, and maybe information about your ongoing workshops and how they can find out more information, as I'm stumbling here.
Definitely. So my business again is Radiate Wellness, and I'm currently holding office space at the People's Yoga in Northeast Portland, which is on 30th and Killingsworth. And you can find my holistic nutrition and cooking class workshops at both Matt Dishman Community Center and Mount Scott Community Center. And find me online at radiatewellness.com. There's a little dash in between Radiate and Wellness. And on Facebook as well. So I look forward to seeing you out there.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being here today. It was really fun. It was really great to catch up and also learn about all the exciting things that you are doing.
Yeah.
So
thanks for having me, Leah.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Well, I will be doing another segment coming up soon. Looking forward to doing some cooking classes. Well, not even really classes, but some little hints in the kitchen. So stay tuned for that and more. We'll see you next time.